Scotland to hollow out large turnips and put candles inside them. When Irish immigrants moved to the US, they began carving the jack-o'-lantern from pumpkins, as these were the native to the region. Now it's time for the evaluations. I will call upon stage the General Evaluator, who will take us through the evaluation section. She is someone who has joined us from Aundh Toastmaster Club. I would request her to introduce herself. Before she evaluates, let's welcome Toastmaster Vidhita.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Manisha, the Toastmaster of the day. Am I audible and visible clearly?
Yes.
Thank you so much. A slight correction. I am from the Siemens Toastmasters Club, Mane. And I will be the General Evaluator for today. Thank you for having me. I would like to start the evaluation first with the speech evaluations for today. And to begin with, we would have Toastmaster Divyesh evaluating the icebreaker speech of Toastmaster Moez. So I would like to call upon the stage Toastmaster Divyesh. Please. Toastmaster Divyesh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Stop sharing so that I can share the timer screen.
Sure, you may please proceed.
The timer, can you just share the screen? Yeah, I can see. Shall I share? Yes. Good evening, all. So congratulations, Toastmaster Moez, for completing your icebreaker speech. And this is the first speech of yours, and the topic is Who Am I? You have given spooky experience, and you started your speech with a lot of excitement and enthusiasm. The start of your speech was really good, and the structures of the speech was also very good. When you said that I am from Gujarat, so it hooked me up because I am also from Gujarat. And you have brought a lot of good experience in this speech. 3 experience and some experience like earthquake plus Godragan. So all this experience, when you are sharing, it sends chills up of my spine, because when I was there in Gujarat, and I have also experienced the same during the earthquake time. One of the experience which you have shared, where you are failing, and after that you passed your engineering from that point. So that entire experience was giving a lot of motivational to other people, because you are failed in 12th, and from that point you have passed your engineering, and it gives really a strong message, and I really appreciate on that particular one, because you have convert adversity into the opportunity by joining the engineering. 2 recommendation I have for you. So some of the when you are mentioning some events, so sometimes what happens, like audience, they are not aware about that particular event. Let's say Godra Khan. So instead of that, you can just use a different word, or you can just brief about that particular event. Let's say for Godra Khan, you can use communal riots or something like that, so that people can relate more. Okay. In next speech, you can just use a little bit more voice modulation, vocal variety, etc. to improve. Overall, it was really a nice speech. And the last one, when you mentioned that your husband journey, father journey, your Toastmasters journey, it was also very much related to your introduction and overall speech. So well done on the conclusion as well. So it's like one cannot uh, teach how to ride a bicycle. That is how in Toastmaster also you also need to take up a role, and you need to take speeches and move further. So that is what the message, and best of luck for your next speech. Over to you.
Thank you, Devesh.
So much, Toastmaster Devesh. Next up, I'd like to call upon the evaluator for Toastmaster Priya, that is Toastmaster Aundh, to present his evaluation.
Right. Am I audible and visible? Okay. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, guests, and my target speaker. Your speech was neither spooky, nor did it bring chill up my spine, but it did bring up the moonlight up in the sky. There were so many good points in your speech that I am feeling sad I don't have enough time to elaborate all of them. Praise not perfect. It takes a big person, a shrewd person, to always appreciate and not criticize. Imagine that was Andrew Carnegie who said, you should always praise, lavish in your appreciation. And that is what you are also following in his footsteps. Your leadership style was very well portrayed by the way you appreciated by reading out that email. Well done. And you explicitly explained to the audience how you are actually using appreciative leadership style. You shared personal anecdotes, and that struck a chord with the audience. When you shared about your mother and how you learned about appreciation, I could relate with you, and so did the audience, because I was observing how they are reacting to your message. Well done again. You engaged the audience, oh my goodness, by asking questions. People who probably maybe half asleep also came back to understand what is actually going on, what is the conversation all about. Excellent job, I will say. Engaging the audience is the most difficult and the most important thing in any speech. Well done. Now, a dynamic leader is made by what she inspires and the message she imparts. For example, I felt you could have elaborated more as to how appreciative leadership is your communication style. For example, you could have given examples how engagement in a particular project, if you're working on, if you are using appreciation to your team members, how it actually helped in the productivity of the team. Or even if, let's say, it was half done, you could have said how appreciating your members helped them to overcome all the challenges which they were facing. And especially in IT and any field, there are a lot of challenges, but encouragement helps them keep going. So that is one recommendation I have from my end. Apart from that, do you see the presence I am delivering now by standing up? That is what I will expect from you as well. Your pathway is dynamic leadership. So I will expect you to stand and deliver your speech. If you're standing up using the stage presence, even though we are virtual, but that is how it's going to be in future also. But if you will adapt to the situation as soon as possible and start giving your speeches by standing up, I feel that you can definitely go on to becoming a dynamic leader. To summarize, excellent message, amazing confidence, and very good audience engagement. And with only these two suggestions, I believe that you can go on to become a dynamic leader, not only in Toastmasters, but in your professional as well as your personal career. Back to the General Evaluator. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster.
You're not audible.
I think your mic is on.
You may try removing the headphones and speak.
I think she froze. Let me just check.
Right.
Meanwhile, maybe we can have the polls for the evaluator, best evaluator.
The timer report first. Would you like to do that?
Evaluation, both the speakers are qualified. Toastmaster Divesh took 3 minutes 11 seconds, and Toastmaster Aditya also took 3 minutes 11 seconds, coincidentally.
So Prajat, you can release the poll, launch the poll.
Done. Please cast your votes.
Should we wait for some time, or do you think?
Yeah, she is rejoining. She just said just a couple of minutes, and I think she should.
Yeah. One more person is. We're waiting for 2 more people to vote for best evaluator.
I think this is a Halloween meeting, and that's why things are unpredictable.
More spooky.
Effect.
I request everyone to, like, while we are waiting for general evaluator final, I can see one more person to vote still.
Your audio is not working, Vidita. Maybe you can remove
It's
your
connecting.
headphones.
Yeah, it is connecting from you're coming from 2 devices, it seems. Right?
Yeah, she has a backup device, I think.
Maybe your mic is at top side if you have a mic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you hear me better now?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Great.
Sorry for
They're
that.
able to hear you now.
Yeah, sorry for that disruption. It was unexpected. Okay, so I could not hear the last part of Toastmaster Aditya's evaluation. Sorry for that. I would continue from there on, and now would like to call upon my tag team. So I think the timers report has been presented throughout the section, so we can skip that in the interest of time. And now I would like to call upon the R counter for today's meeting to come up and present the report. Toastmaster Santosh, please.
Thank you, Toastmaster Vidita, and good evening again. Toastmaster, I am using the less than 5 and more than 5 to count curse sound, filler word, and filler phrases. So Toastmaster Aditi, curse sound less than 5, no filler word, and no filler phrases. Toastmaster Maisa, as of now, only less than 5 curse sound, no filler word, and no filler phrase. Toastmaster Parijat, in role of grammarian, as of now, no curse sound, less than 5 filler word, and no filler phrase. Toastmaster Moise, more than 5 curse sound, less than 5 filler, more than 5 filler word, and less than 5 filler phrase. Toastmaster Priya, less than 5 curse sound, less than 5 filler word, no filler phrase. Toastmaster Sweta, more than 5 curse sound, more than 5 filler word, and more than 5 filler phrase. Guest Vikas, less than 5 curse sound, more than 5 filler phrase, more than 5 filler word. Toastmaster Narayan, less than 5 curse sound, no filler word, no filler phrase. Guest Satyendra, more than 5 crest sound, more than 5 filler word. Toastmaster Devesh, more than 5 filler word, more than 5 crest sound, less than 5 filler word, and no filler phrase. And Toastmaster Santosh, more than 5 crest sound, less than 5 filler word, and no filler phrase. And flawless speaker, Toastmaster Aditya and Toastmaster Parijat in role of the table topic speech. Over to General Evaluator.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Santosh, for that detailed report. Next up, I would like to call upon the language evaluator for today, that is Toastmaster Parijat. So, stage is yours.
Thank you, Toastmaster Vidita. So the Batman is back. So let me just do the quick one first, which is the word of the day and phrase of the day. And I'm glad to hear that spooky was not as spooky and people were very comfortable using that word. So there were almost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 speakers who used word of the day today. And the star performer amongst them was our Toastmaster of the day, who through her Halloween story used it 4 times, and everyone else used it at least once. So great job. And the names were Aditi, Aditya, Moiz, Priya, Shweta, and Divyesh, and myself. So these were the people who used word of the day. In terms of phrase of the day, there were fewer people. That would include Toastmaster Manisha, Toastmaster Aditya, who used it twice, and Toastmaster Moiz, Priya, Shweta, Divyesh, and I think Toastmaster guest Ved Vikas, who also used the phrase of the day. So all of these people used phrase of the day in their speeches. So great job there. So the language use, I'm really glad. As Batman, it was not like a nightmarish day today. So we had some great usages. Toastmaster Manisha had a lot of wordplay in her speech or in her content. So like treat through a trick, or seeing the spirits in the right spirit. Partners in crime. Partners in crime essentially means accomplices, but like the way it is used makes it like really a great wordplay. So some of this could be more like pun. So do try to use that because that makes your language very, very attractive. Toastmaster Moiz said, dream come true. So essentially, and even Toastmaster Priya said, shape your behavior. In both scenarios, these are non-human words, right? Dream and behavior. But when you're saying shape your behavior, you are actually saying that, okay, you're giving a shape to it, which is not like really a tangible thing. Similarly, dream come true. So dream is like something very out of the world, right? And coming true is more factual in nature. So it's like contradictory, but making those play of words makes it more interesting. Toastmaster Priya also used something like version of themselves. So again, version is a very computerish word, which is now used in our local language or in our day-to-day language. So it gives a very different flavor to how you represent your own self and saying, okay, my previous version or my new version. Toastmaster Santosh said, humans, not resources. So by using those words, he actually clearly distinguished in the way how we look at employees in our workplaces. So I think that's again, like just by using that simple phrase, the distinction was drawn in our minds. Toastmaster Divyesh used adversity, convert adversity into opportunities. So again, like by putting those opposites together, you're able to clearly create a stark difference in the way that is presented. Toastmaster Aditya used both phrase of the day and word of the day, and then moved into another beautiful phrase saying that bring up the moonlight in the sky. So suddenly he took us from like chills up your spine to the sky. So again, like great use of words there. And another word that he used was lavish. Lavish means that you are using something more profusely, like you don't have any limits. You are happy to use it more openly. So that's again a word that we should carry and use in our day-to-day language. Two things that I would like to leave you with. which were used in the date in our speeches today or in our content today, which can be improved upon. One is when we say speaking in public, a lot of times I've noticed that we end up saying speaking in a public. So when you say public, public is already plural. So you can't use a before that. So you say speaking in public, that is good enough. Or if you want to say speaking in a public, then you add forum to it, saying speaking in a public forum, because then forum is singular in nature. So either you avoid a, or if you want to use a, then add forum to it. The second thing I noticed was when we talk about saying that, okay, I want to speak and you want to say podium, then speaking from a podium is the point, not on a podium. When you use on, it means you are over the top of that thing, right? If I am on a table, that means I'm standing on a table. But if I am standing by the table, which means I'm standing besides the table, not on the table. So similarly, when I'm speaking around the podium, so I'm speaking from the podium, not on the podium. I could be on the stage, but I'm speaking from a podium. I think these two things, I'm hoping that all of you get to learn something from what I have shared just now. And please, I do encourage all of you to use a lot of these things in your day-to-day life. With that, back to you, Toastmaster Vidya.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Parijat. It was very detailed and even I got to learn a thing or two from it. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'll now start with my evaluation and I'll go in the order of the role players who presented themselves on the screen today. Starting with the Sergeant at Arms, Toastmaster Aditi, I think you had a great start in a very spooky manner with no lights. And I don't know how you did that, but it was very nice. And at least for me, I was very eager to see your face after your voice and the introduction you did. Your introduction was very relevant to the topic. And you used the word of the day, phrase of the day right in the intro or the beginning of the meeting. So that sets the tone relevant for all of us. And it also encourages us to use those words. Then you had the basic ground rules led very clearly, and you mentioned about the different, the basic rules which we have in our Toastmasters meeting. After that, you had a good presiding officer introduction done very well. So I think I don't have any specific recommendations for you. Good job done there. Moving on to the presiding officer for today, Toastmaster Santosh. I think, first of all, Toastmaster Aditi gave a very enthusiastic start to his introduction for bringing him on the stage. And he was also very enthusiastic today. I don't know, was it the theme or was it his energy levels very high today? But I found him very enthusiastic to begin the meeting. He greeted the guests and even the guests were today enthusiastic that they themselves introduced that, yeah, two of us are here and we have joined the meeting as a guest. So that was very nice to see. I really like that you thoroughly explained the Toastmasters International, what it is about, what are the facts and figures related to it. So you were very passionate while talking about it. Also, you added a line about the Bane Toastmasters Club. Quick recommendation would be maybe since you are an public club, or you can have your links displayed in the chat window so that the guests can maybe quickly go through them and have a look at it, or maybe off your Instagram post or something. So any relevant VP PR or VP membership kind of a links could be handy at the time when the guests are joining in. So that is one recommendation for you. Otherwise, you did a very nice job to then hand it over to the Toastmaster of the day. So you had her introduction also well set. Toastmaster Manisha, I would come to you towards the end as you were the host for the meeting. So I'll move on to the other role players. Then next up on the stage was the timer for today. That was Toastmaster Aditya. Initially, he played that role, I think, for the role introduction part. And I found him that he said that it was a dual role for him. And very nicely done. I think most of us know that when we take the role at the nth hour, it sends chills down our spine and we have to, really come on the stage with maybe 2 roles or 3 roles sometimes. So role nicely done. Only one recommendation I have, maybe you can go down a little slow with your explanation when you were telling about the different time slots for the different sessions. because considering the perspective of a guest, so maybe, if you tell them that table topic session is of, these are the 3 time limits, and then you talk about the speech, and then speech today also were 2 different speeches. There was an icebreaker and another one was a regular speech. So the time limits are different. One way to do it is that you can show timer cards at the start of the session or at the call out of each session, or do one dry run maybe at the start of your role description, so that the person knows that how the timing sequence will be played. I think at that point, Toastmaster Manisha, as the Toastmaster of the day, did a good job at throughout the particular section. She repeated the time slots and the card sequences. So good job done. I think later on, the role was played by Toastmaster Dhanashree, and she also did a fabulous job for sharing a screen and also coordinated very well with Toastmaster Shweta during the table topic session. So kudos to all 3 of you together as a role player. Next up on the screen was the R counter. Again, it was a dual role played by Toastmaster Santosh today, being the presiding officer, launching the polls, and also doing the R counter role. I think you had a great explanation of the filler words while you were giving examples in your introduction. So you talked about the crutch words, what are they, and how we can improve. And during your report presentation, you had the fashion of telling more than 5, less than 5. I think that is recommended, because we would, when there are a lot of role players or a lot of speakers, we would not want to know the exact number, but a relative number. So that is good. One recommendation I'd like to give you here is, since now we are in this virtual mode of meetings, it would be good that you can maybe share your screen with that Excel report or whatever format you follow, so that the participants can view the screen and it registers in their mind that who has who has spoken more filler words or more crutch words, and what are the specific words that a person speaks. For example, somebody says a lot, so then they can improve and it gets registers in our mind. And as a challenge or a pro tip, I would like to suggest you that maybe you can give some examples of reducing the R's and Ums. For example, you can say that when you're speaking, you can introduce a long pause so that you think also, and then you avoid taking the crutch words as a support. So that is, maybe you can try it on in a next meeting. Other than that, a flawless role play. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Santosh. Next up, I'd like to talk about the language evaluator for today, Toastmaster Parijat. I think you had a great command over your voice, and you were very clear about your role today. The way you explained the word of the day, it was used by many people. That itself speaks volumes about how easily you explained the word with the example, and also encourage people to really, come up and try it on when you explain the word and the phrase of the day. And I think it also helps then the word is very easily accessible or understandable by people, so that they use it quite frequently throughout the meeting. You also explained that the word and the phrase of the day is mentioned in the agenda. So that was good on your part. You also encouraged people to try use it. I could see in the chat window that during the session, you were always pinging in the chat window to encourage people to use it. So that's a very nice thing, to be attentive throughout the meeting and encourage people to use it. In your report presentation, you had the great details about who used the word of the day and phrase of the day, and you also applauded them. And during a role introduction, you also mentioned people to encourage whenever somebody is speaking by showing a raise of, thumbs up, or maybe using an emoticon. So that also really helps people to know who all spoke, and people are really into the meeting throughout by encouraging others. Now, coming to some recommendations, again, I felt that maybe you could have shared the agenda screen while talking about the word of the day and phrase of the day, because I think for the guests, it is for the first time they hear it. So if they see also while you're talking about it, it gets registered in their minds. And one more thing, I really would like to encourage that while you were telling about the good usage of language, you were very descriptive about who used it and how used it and how to use it. And when the not so good usage was discussed, you kept it only to, this was heard in the meeting, and then how could you improve? So that is very nice. We should not really highlight who used not so good language. One recommendation there could be that usually for every evaluation, we follow CRC approach. So maybe when you talk about the good usage, the word of the day and phrase of the day, then maybe you can talk about the not so good use and followed or concluded by the good usage of language so that it fits into the CRC approach. So that is the only one recommendation I have for you. Other than that, I thoroughly enjoyed your role today. Thank you so much. Now I'd like to talk about the table topic master, Toastmaster Shweta. So I think Toastmaster Shweta, you're from Aundh Club or the Wipro Rendezvous Club?
Wipro Rendezvous Toastmaster Club, Pune.
Okay. Yeah, so hi Shweta. I really like the way you explained the table topics, what it is all about. And I think you also shared one of your own experiences where you recollected someone saying that whenever you are giving a table topic, you yourself should be able to speak to it when you formulate your topics. So that was very well thought through, and I could see that in your topics, whichever you had chosen, and they were really very relevant and very interesting to attempt. The way you conducted the table topics, managing the sharing of screen along with the timer was also commendable today. I could see that. Maybe a couple of recommendations there could be that, when you are having a screen full of, let's say, 2-3 rows of topics, you can number them, so that I was seeing that the participants were taking a little more time to, go to that correct row number, column number. So if you number them, they can simply say 6th, 7th, 18th, or whatever it is. So that really helps for a smooth transition. And another thing I noticed that usually we follow this pattern of calling. So when you give a topic to a speaker, when you call upon the stage, you follow the pattern speaker, topic, topic, speaker. So let's say your topic is what will happen if India wins the match today? Toastmaster Vidita, what will happen if India wins the match today? What will happen if India wins the match today? Toastmaster Vidita. So speaker, topic, topic, speaker. So that is the relevant way, the right way basically we follow whenever we are giving a topic in the contest also, you would see, and in our meetings also. So that helps the person to regain the topic in their minds. Yeah, that's it from my side. I think you did a fabulous job in selecting your topics and kept the guests also engaged. So I saw that you also called upon the guests to attempt a topic, so which is a very commendable job. Thank you so much. Now I'd like to talk about the 2 evaluators today. Toastmaster Divyesh was evaluating the speech of Toastmaster Moise, if I'm pronouncing your name rightly. It was an icebreaker speech. So I don't know about your club practice, but in our club, we follow this practice of standing ovation. So in virtual setup, it's not possible. So all of us raise, we do raise of hands or we clap so that we want to give a special mention for the person who's attempting his icebreaker speech. So kudos to you, Toastmaster Moise, for giving your icebreaker speech today. And coming to the evaluation of Toastmaster Divyesh, I think you had a very nice evaluation to the point, and you applauded the highlights of Toastmaster Moi's speech. Was it the start of the way he started the speech, or the 3 key highlights which really touched upon all of us when he told his story? And all of us went into those days, okay, 2001, where was I? What happened with me on that day of 26th January? All of that was very, very nice. And since it was an icebreaker, so you gave some relevant recommendations to your target speaker. And I'm sure moving on, when he takes up speeches in his future upcoming meetings, he would really improve upon that. A couple of recommendations to Toastmaster Divyesh on your evaluation today. Maybe you can mention whether the objectives of the speaker were met or not, so that the speaker is aware that when he has given his speech, is he really eligible to go forward for his next speech. So maybe you can mention that considering your evaluation. And second recommendation is that's only for the icebreaker, because it's an icebreaker. So we usually restrict the recommendation to a minimum of 1, or maybe none, but we don't go for none because we have to evaluate. So we give only one recommendation, and we really appreciate the person who has come on the stage, although it's in a virtual way or whatever, who has come up and given a speech in front of all the audience. Some of us are really strangers for him. So we restrict it to only one. Other than that, very nice evaluation. I was with you until that. And coming to the evaluation of Toastmaster Aditya, I really like the way you opened it up. And the phrase which was highlighted by Toastmaster Parijat, I also made a note of it, the moonlight up in the sky. I think you had a good vocabulary where you really expressed the way your target speaker today achieved her objectives. Unfortunately, I could not hear you throughout, and I had to drop off because of this technical problem. But till the time I was there with you, I saw that you applauded your target speaker on the good part of a speech where she read the appreciation email, and the tone of her speech was mostly to be appreciative and express gratitude towards your colleagues and members alike. So I was only till there. I'm sorry I could not give you any recommendations, but hope to, evaluate you in future. Moving on to my Toastmaster of the day, Toastmaster Manisha. First of all, a great job done today. I thoroughly enjoyed the way you conducted the meeting. I'm not sure whether it was your first Toastmaster of the day as a host or whatever, but you were phenomenal. Your screen presence was really amazing. I mean, the minute I joined, you were greeting the guests. Although I was there in the meeting lobby for last 10 minutes, but due to some technical glitch, I could not join in. But the minute I joined, I saw your face, that cheerful smile. It really set the positive tone for me, to be honest. And that's what is mentioned in my pointers also. You really, the minute you started, I think you were very well aligned with the theme. I don't know if it was you who decided the theme or it was the presiding officer, but both of you were so enthusiastic about the theme that it was very well visible in your speech delivery today. And to highlight some of the great part of your role today, I saw that you were very attentive throughout the meeting. So you mentioned about the change in agenda, if there was one for the timer. Initially, you mentioned about it. Your PPT or the content that you was sharing on the screen was very appropriate. And, even for the speakers, I could see you had mentioned the pathways, the level, the photographs, they were all spooky to some extent. So it was all, the theme was very relevant and you were doing justice to it. I would like to say that. Also, for introducing a role player, I saw that you had theme appropriate introductions written for all of them. So that shows how much of effort you have taken for playing this role today. And in between, you had a quiz also, right? So that kept the meeting very engaging and interesting. And you also really asked all your members to not Google it and be very honest with your answers. And the questions were really nice. I also was really thinking about the different answers, what could be. Another thing I really liked about your role today is that you encouraged everybody to give feedback for the speakers, and that too in private, because most of us don't know each other, and it is very good to give feedback for the speakers and you give some time for it. Usually the host forgets it in the virtual meeting, but I saw that you did it very nicely. So good job done there. Now, I would like to give you two recommendations for today's meeting. Again, one of them is common for some of the role players, that maybe you can try to do more of screen sharing. So when you talk about the change in the agenda, so for somebody like me who hasn't seen the agenda, or the guests who haven't seen the agenda, you can probably share your screen, the PDF, and highlight that line, or whatever role player is changed with what, so that we know it. And during the meeting, it's very important to know what is changed, because I'm sure runtime changes happen in every meeting and it's very obvious to have it. So maybe you try that in next meetings, and maybe that really helps. Another suggestion I'd like to see is that there were guests in the meeting. You greeted them in the beginning and they were called upon during the table topic session. But if we want to keep the guests engaged, because every meeting is like 2 hours or 1.5 hours, and it is difficult to keep the engagement till such a long period of time. So we can call out them by their names and ask them to involve. So for example, you had your quiz session, and to make it more interesting and engaging, you can keep 4 options to the question and ask from the audience. And since you know who all are guests, because they are named like that in the naming convention, you can call about all their names. And then, maybe then, I'm not sure in virtual, how do you give something? Maybe you give a certificate of appreciation or something. So that keeps them engaged and motivated to join your further meetings. So I think this should help you in future. And a good job done today, Toastmaster Manisha. I was really, really impressed by the way you conducted the meeting today. Thank you so much. Now, some general comments about the meeting. I noticed that the spotlighting of the speaker was missing today. I'm not sure if in your club, is it the Zoom master who does it or the sergeant drums? But that really helps, because when the speaker was speaking, I was also able to see 2 or 3 other people in the video mode. So spotlighting was missing. Maybe you can take care of that. And the second thing is that meeting started at 4:03. Since we are here to respect time in Toastmasters, so we can try to make it, start at 4. That really helps. And I don't know if it's a joint meeting today, but I faced initial few minutes hiccup while joining. So again, Sergeant at Arms or the presiding officer together can take a look at it. Other than that, a very nice meeting. I have been a part of Baner Club meeting before pandemic. Like, I have met Toastmaster Santosh and Toastmaster Parijat in person, and I would always like to come back to this club as I am part of Siemens Baner Club, so it's in the vicinity, and we have met for contests, etc. in the past. So it was nice to be here today again after a long time. With this, I'd like to conclude my evaluation, and over to you, Presiding Officer, Toastmaster Santosh.
Thank you. Toastmaster Manisha, you can start your conclude.
Yeah.
Before that, Toastmaster Manisha, could you launch the poll for the best role play speaker and auxiliary role play speaker? Poll, so that I have the time to prepare the certificate.
Correct. So thank you, General Evaluator, TM Vidita, for the great evaluation session and the feedback. And probably the disruption that happened with you was to happen because of the Halloween. It's the Halloween effect. So now we'll vote for the best role player of the day. I'll request